Look, man, nobody knew that in a world dominated by demons, a human would take a step to change everything. What did Felicia see that night while darkness surrounded the village? Holland, with his sword in hand and his head full of plans, thinks he's calm, but the reality is quite different. That insane war left scars, and from what happened, there's no time to relax, right? Check it out. People are talking about something powerful coming, and even the bravest are scared. And what if he's not? The only one in this mess? My God, just look at the trouble that's about to break out. The story starts on the throne of the Demon King, totally wobbly. After an intense ruckus among the rubble, a colossal beast falls down. This monster is the General of Perdition, one of the leaders of the demon army. Suddenly he faces the being that took him down, a human slowly approaching. He wonders how a brute like General Melodigo could have been dispatched by a human. It's impossible. Furious, the monster screams that this cannot be true. He refuses to accept defeat. But on the other side, our hero is already positioned, ready to deliver the final blow. Zekan rushes in with his sword on fire, shouting that victory is his, and then he starts pummeling the general with a series of heavy blows. After the brawl, our protagonist stands still to look at the finished monster's body. In this world, a certain demon king has emerged and already pulverized entire kingdoms, with the invasion going on. He sent his henchmen to govern the area. 100 years went by, and humanity was under his boot until a warrior decided to change the game. The crowd was celebrating, reveling in his return. Meanwhile, in a house, a very fair girl is on edge, looking out the window, eagerly waiting for someone. In the village, the people were in ecstasy, saying that Holland defeated one of the leaders. Others questioned whether it was true that he stayed for 3 days and 3 nights in battle. Everyone welcomed him with great joy, calling him a hero and expressing their gratitude. Out of nowhere, a familiar voice calls him, and he turns to see who it is. With a big smile, he says he's back with his childhood friend Felicia. The girl welcomes the hero and says she knew he would do well. Upon seeing the two meeting again, the crowd decides to give them some space and leaves them alone. Felicia asks if he really thought it was a good idea to come back from the real capital so early. Roland replies that if he stayed there, they would want to drag him into the Knights team. He says he has no plans to leave the village, and that's why he left the rest to Selena. Roland teases the girl, saying he's passing the hot potato to her. She responds that he shouldn't bother his little sister. In another corner, a girl tells him not to bother his older sister either. Roland thinks there couldn't be a better moment, but then Demon Queen Solana appears, asking if he wants to keep his sister worried until he saves the world. She tells him to show he's a man and calls him brother-in-law, leaving him utterly embarrassed. The protagonist is speechless and blushing at the girl's boldness. Back in the village, Roland calls Felicia and says he has a surprise. The girl becomes curious and asks if he's really bringing something for her. He asks her not to be shocked and continues speaking. Curious, she wants to know what it is. Roland then takes out a little box and kneels in front of Felicia. When he opens it, the girl is so surprised to see an engagement ring. Our protagonist, feeling awkward, asks Felicia to marry him. He says that with all the troubles going on, no one knows what tomorrow will bring, but he wants to be the one who makes her happy. Felicia is a sea of emotions, filled with joy. The hero finishes his sentence by saying that he intends to be the one who will protect her. He remembers that both of them lost their parents when they were young. Even in a world full of demons, Felicia never loses her smile and offers hope to everyone. He feels that, like a sword, she deserves more than this, so he promises to always protect her. Determined, the protagonist vows to fulfill this. With the ring in hand, he feels stronger and motivated. Then we see Roland training with the sword at night, showing all his determination. The guy doesn't stop for a second, repeating the movements with great discipline. Felicia appears and tells him to relax a bit, but he replies that he needs to ensure he can protect this happiness. She watches everything with a hopeful and happy expression. So call him and ask for a promise. Melissa gets serious and says she knows the guy would even give his life to protect her, and that she's only enduring this concrete jungle because she hopes everything will calm down one day. If the dude isn't here, her life becomes chaos. She already finds it bizarre to imagine a world without him. Roland agrees, believing that there is still a lot of game ahead and he doesn't want to kick the bucket just yet. The beauty asks if he really got her message. He replies that he's going to be cool about it, but for that, he needs to train hard. The dude lets her know it will take some time, so he tells her to take a nap. She wonders if he is serious about her going to bed, and he insists on reminding her that they are a couple now. Holland asks her to wait a bit, with the utmost firmness. Felicia finds the guy's awkward habits the strongest in the world, adorable. Holland is there all awkward. Felicia watches him with a look full of love, but out of nowhere, the vibe changes. Holland feels something weird approaching. A dark being appears in the sky and glares at him with a threatening look. Holland's heart nearly jumps out of his mouth when he realizes it's a demon. He feels such an insane pressure that he understands the power of that demon is greater than that of an official. Without thinking twice, Roland pulls out his sword, determined. He steps forward, ready for battle, but in a plot twist kind of way, his face goes crazy. Roland just watches the demon until out of nowhere he's slammed to the ground. The creature is paralyzed, wondering who is holding him. The being comments that it's no wonder that fool took a beating from him, and that's why he's not going to let our boy go. And well, the demon introduces himself as the Demon King, which shocks Roland. He tells that he's been after our protagonist since an official didn't die a century ago. The little devil reveals that their thing isn't to expel humans, but rather to provoke despair. Then the Demon King shows an ancient curse. Roland is all terrified and asks what his deal is. The Demon King gives a devilish smile and shoots the curse at our protagonist's village. Roland goes into a panic. The Demon King warns that soon what he loves will be devoured. Roland is in total shock, unable to believe what is happening. He ignores the pain and rushes to save Felicia, running as if there were no tomorrow. Amidst everything, he screams, recalling the promise to always protect her. Desperate, he tells her to stay calm. Roland runs towards Felicia. She calls out to him and he turns around, all worried. Confused, he notices her face is serene. Felicia, calm, tells him to forget the promise they made while she is being engulfed by the curse. Roland is paralyzed with horror as he sees his beloved starting to turn into a demonic beast. He cannot bear to look at that desolate scene, remembering the good times with Felicia. His mind is in a knot. He screams her name in despair as she gradually transforms. The curse turns her into a creature with demonic armor. Her once adorable face now displays a devilish grin and a menacing gaze. The metamorphosis completes, and she becomes a horrifying monster. Her claws turn sharp and gigantic, ready to attack. And without a second thought, the beast strikes. Roland, even in shock, manages to draw his sword to protect himself. Roland blocks the attack, but her strength is absurd. So powerful, he is pushed back by a single blow. He tries to reach her, shouting if she can at least hear him. Roland cries out that it doesn't matter what form she takes, for the love he has will never change. But the creature couldn't care less and charges at him. The claws shred the man's sword as if it were paper. Roland is hurled away by the impact, falling to the ground. He realizes that her mindset has already vanished along with her goodness. The creature watches him with a cruel smile, almost enjoying the situation. At this point, Roland decides he will just dodge the attacks until her energy runs out. He shouts that they will still be happy and that there is a way to break the curse. Until that day comes, he promises he will not let anyone hurt her. In response, Felicia prepares for an even more powerful attack. The tension is palpable as a wild blow comes towards our boy. He, with the agility of a master, he dodges easily and positions himself over her, facing the situation head-on. Felicia, who is angry, charges with all her strength, spinning like a tornado to strike from a distance. Meanwhile, the Demon King, merely observing, offers some praises for our protagonist's skills. He comments that Roland has practically held his ground without hurting his opponent. With a sarcastic smile, the villain asks if our hero really thinks he can break this curse. Filled with rage, Roland shouts that once he calms Felicia down, the demon will dance. At that moment, the creature lunges forward again and the protagonist stays alert. The Demon King thinks it won't be easy and starts preparing another spell. He remarks that perhaps Roland can protect the monster and bring this mess to an end. Magical circles spring up from nowhere on the ground and chains appear to trap our boy, catching everyone by surprise. Our hero tries to break free, but soon realizes his body is unresponsive. The creature advances to attack the protagonist, who is completely paralyzed. Boom! The impact sends Roland's sword flying. The weapon embeds itself in the ground, unreachable. The Demon King laughs and declares that now the game has become interesting. While Roland bleeds on the ground, our madman screams in pain, realizing that with his injured arm, his defense is gone. The creature, not satisfied, moves closer to his fallen beloved, but even hurt, Roland grabs his sword with his other hand. He prepares to go for the beast, even in a brutal disadvantage. Then, the monster releases a beam of energy that rushes towards him. Roland takes the hit directly, being propelled against the wall, his strength fading. Our hero feels everything darken and wonders if this is his end. Meanwhile, the creature is getting ready to deliver the final blow. Even a step from death, Roland remembers the promise he made to Felicia. In his mind, she is there, urging him to remember what they vowed. The hero screams that he can't die and leave the girl alone in this crazy world. With that, he realizes time is running out to save her from the curse. Gathering what little strength remains, he rises with the sword in hand. And then he remembers her smile, the promise to always protect her with a determination like, today no one is going to stop me. Rolling onto the creature with a kick, he screams that he will never leave Felicia alone and prepares for the final attack. Then he uses all his power to drive the sword into the chest of his beloved. The strike goes deep, but Holland cannot push the blade further in. He complains that, with one arm, the attack was almost nothing. In the meantime, the creature glares at our hero with a furious look. Felicia, with her rage focused, is ready to strike back. Using her sharp claws, without a second thought, she plunges her hand into Holland's chest. Our hero's scream of pain echoes as blood spills from his mouth. Completely defeated, he hangs in the creature's arms, which holds him like he is nothing, facing death with a sadistic smile. The creature looks at him, holding him in the air while his sword is still embedded in her, even with the unbearable pain. Roland refuses to give up and gathers his last energies. The monster throws our hero to the ground like dirt, but he, in a final effort, grabs his sword, and in a swift motion, he makes the final cut with a blow that splits the creature in half. The Demon King begins to laugh, saying that he just cut his own wife in half. Roland, lying on the already collapsed ground, says that the villain is completely mistaken and understands nothing. As his life drains away, he tries to rise in one last attempt to fight the demon, but ends up saying that his end is here. It took too long. With that, the villain disappears, leaving Roland to die alone on the ground. Suddenly, our protagonist opens his eyes in a completely white place. Confused, he wonders where he is. The hero casts a glance at his shadow and questions if this is the afterlife. He then remembers Felicia's last words, asking him not to forget the promise, but he ended up dying before fulfilling it. Thus, he wonders if he can truly say that he kept his promise. Our boy feels that Felicia deserved a much happier ending than the one she had. 2 feathers slowly fall. As our hero's consciousness fades, a woman with wings and blindfolded eyes appears in front of our boy. She introduces herself as the angel Myosotis. To our surprised protagonist, Roland is confused and asks who she is, but the angel says there's no time. There it is. The angel doesn't want to beat around the bush and straightforwardly tells Roland that before jumping into the main issue, she has something to say. Myosotis reveals that Felicia had a happy life after all. I mean, despite everything that happened, she still gets that Roland is a good guy, but warns that her request is going to be, I don't know, kind of heavy. She offers the chance to bring him back to life, and the boy thinks he's on a high and shouts that he's going to punch the Demon King. The angel merely observes him with a calm look, seeming like calm is her last name. With that, she begins to cast a spell in a circle of golden light, and Roland's body is pulled back to the worldly realm. The surrounding environment assembles into blocks, as if everything were a Minecraft build. Roland then plummets back into the little village where all the trouble happened with his beloved. Myosotis also says that when everything is calm, his wish will come true, but the angel lays it out clearly, saying he needs to apologize for something big. Outside, heavy rain pounds the place where the bloody battle took place. Roland stands there thinking if the Demon King has already faced reality and left. Myosotis reveals that it's not possible to restore his right arm, and the boy is in shock, unable to believe he's going to lose his greatest ability. Roland and Felicia are lying on the ground, and the scene is heart-wrenching. Back from the hardship, Roland embraces Felicia's body. Beneath the storm, he realizes that now, his arm is her demonic arm. He feels all disheartened, thinking he'll have to use the strength of the woman he loved. On his knees in the rain, he hugs her one last time and, immersed in sadness, with his face crushed by pain, he grits his teeth, clearly suffering. Then, he lets out a scream, living his despair on that rainy night. The scene is desolate. Over the ashes of the battle, traces of happiness are scattered. Roland, after all of this, he buries his beloved simply, right near home. He looks at the engagement ring, reminiscing about the happiness that was taken from him. He stays there for a while, waving goodbye to the one he promised to protect. He puts the ring on a necklace to carry the memory of Felicia with him always. He apologizes, saying he will end up fighting with her arm. Suddenly, Roland feels a presence and spins around to face the new threat. 2 werewolf-like monsters appear, ready to fight, and our hero is in shock. The monster's clothes seem somewhat familiar, and he realizes, damn, the villagers turned into monsters. With a heavy heart, he draws his sword, knowing he cannot be defeated there. He apologizes, but says he needs to eliminate the monsters to move on. But suddenly, the demonic arm lets out a scream and prevents him from attacking. The sword slips from his hands and falls to the ground. Roland tries to grab the sword, but the arm doesn't respond and he becomes desperate. He remembers what the angel said about losing sword skills. Now he finally understands what she meant by that. The werewolves, seeing him unarmed, charge at him, and he has no other choice. He decides to get his hands into the fight, but then, bang, his arm fires a red energy shot at one of them. Roland is shocked, unsure if he's dreaming or if magic is in the air. Looking at that arm, he feels a sinister power that he has never had before. But while he's there in doubt, another werewolf rushes in to finish him off. With an absurd reflex, he grips the creature's mouth with the demonic hand. The strength is so overwhelming that the monster's head explodes like a balloon. The werewolf's body thuds to the ground lifeless, while our hero stares at his newfound strength. He realizes that this power is entirely outside the laws of nature, not knowing how to control it. Then, suddenly, a voice calls out to him, and he spots a survivor amidst the chaos. The man looks at Roland with the face of someone who has seen a ghost and, in panic, points to the demonic arm, terrified. The survivor screams that Roland has turned into a monster and runs away, as if the devil were chasing him. The guy, completely in shock, can only point at our hero's demonic arm. Desperate, he shouts that Roland has turned into a monster and flees. As if the devil were on his heels, Roland, speechless, stands there watching the man flee in panic. He realizes all at once that the guy was right, and that yes, he was effectively a monster now, and with that, he comes to terms. He can no longer live among humanity. In a tavern far away, the gossip about the destroyed village is spreading like wildfire. One of the foreigners comments that several locals have turned into monsters and started attacking the survivors. Another guy adds to the eye, gossip saying that even the tough guy, Roland, has turned into a monster too. A shocked patron asks if that's the same guy who defeated an officer. He reaches the conclusion that, for this reason, the demon kingdom has marked the guy, and now the humans want to capture him. A woman remarks that it's a real pity that the former hero has become a target. Meanwhile, someone drops some cash on the table and heads out of the tavern. Out in the desert, Roland walks alone in solitude. He's wandering through that devastated land, trying to come to terms with this new reality. Then, our tough guy begins training with a new arm, crushing stones like they are cookies. He isolates himself far from any town, focused on mastering this new power for his revenge. He feels that the demonic arm moves almost as if it were his own. But there's one detail. He can't wield the sword with the demonic hand, and he doesn't even want to go near the sword that took Felicia's life, so he decides to train only with the new arm. Out of nowhere, a girl with pink hair rushes at him with a sword. Roland dodges in time and gets furious upon recognizing who the girl is. He recognizes Solana, Felicia's sister. She can't believe he still speaks the human tongue and prepares to hit him. Roland tries to explain, but Solana just screams that he is a liar. Enraged, Solana says that if he were really a brother, he wouldn't have left his sister behind. With tears in her eyes, she lunges forward, shouting that he abandoned Felicia. In a flashback, we see the three of them together as children in the cemetery. Little Solana cries, calling for her parents who are already gone. Felicia tries to comfort her little sister, while Roland just watches with that sad look. She grabs the girl and says that from now on, she would be the new mother. The little girl asks who would be the father now that they were alone. Felicia is left speechless, clearly devastated. Rolandius hugs her and asks to call Lou the older brother. With a determined look, he finishes by saying he would be their new father. Solana cries a little more, but it seems she accepts this new family that has formed. She clings to Roland, seeking comfort in his embrace. At that moment, she thought the three of them would be together forever, and she felt happy. Now, back in the present, Solana is going all out against Holland. The fight between them intensifies while someone watches from afar. Solana attacks with all her might, while Roland defends himself as best as he can. She unleashes a flurry of punches and kicks, but our boy manages to block everything. Then, the girl uses a special move, a double palm punch, catching him by surprise. This move sends him back with insane force, but he holds his ground. Roland uses the demonic arm as a shield and looks at the girl seriously. Solana calls him a stubborn fool, claiming she just wants to free her brother. Soon, Roland shouts for her to stop, assuring her that he is not a monster, even with that arm. The girl, indignant, asks why her sister is no longer there, questioning the grave he made for Felicia. With tears in her eyes, Solana asks why everything ended up like this. Roland can't hold her gaze and sadly admits that she saw everything happen. She retorts that hands control people, reminding him that it was he who asked to be a brother. She screams that she won't let her body suffer anymore and prepares to attack. Her gauntlets begin to shine with a golden energy as she charges forward at high speed. Solana warns him not to do anything while she goes for the final blow. She throws her explosive stone fist, striking the ground and causing an explosion. The dust spreads, and the girl positions herself amidst the destruction. And then, our heroine realizes that the guy saved himself by jumping to a rock that seemed higher than reality. Roland sees that the girl is broken, all shaken up, and knows that it's no use trying to explain anything. He realizes that he can't blame her. The girl lost her sister and now sees him as a true monster. The crazy guy then starts to think that maybe she is right about him. Holland remembers Felicia's body, that pain that doesn't leave his mind, and keeps thinking about how to make the girl see the truth, that he wasn't the one who killed her. He understands that expecting her to understand soon would be a dream, so he considers simply leaving. But out of nowhere, his expression changes as he senses a new threat coming. The girl also notices, to her total shock when she looks to the side, a giant monster appears behind her, and Roland screams in desperation, "Watch out!" Before the girl can do anything, the creature strikes her with a brutal blow. The impact sends Solana flying as if she were a paper ball. She falls to the ground, battered and defenseless. As she falls, she spits blood, barely managing to get up. After that blow, the creature prepares to deliver the final strike, while she cries out for her sister and for Holland. The monster raises its club to finish off the girl once and for all, but our hero thrusts his demonic arm forward and punches the creature with all his strength. Solana, lying on the ground, is lost, not comprehending what just happened. Roland's fist pierces the monster's chest, which screams as if the world had ended. Angrily, it shouts that they are always taking everything from him. He remembers the woman he loved the most and how everything he had was gone. The crazy guy then looks at Solana on the ground and wonders if they will take her too. With a determined gaze, he promises that he will wait for them, one by one. His arm glows with a red energy as he prepares for the attack. Then Holland screams that he will exterminate them all, down to the last one, using all his power. After the fight, the ground is cracked, completely covered in blood and pieces of the monster. He realizes that by grabbing the creature's arm, he absorbed its strength. Roland then understands that the true power of his arm is to absorb abilities. Amidst the chaos, he sees Solana still on the ground and realizes what happened. He understands that this power is nothing gentle, very different from Felicia's. It's a consuming power. Later, the two sit around a campfire in silence. Solana finally grasps the truth and remembers the Demon King and her sister's transformation. She is shocked and realizes that she has misjudged our hero all along. Roland apologizes for not being able to protect the girl. He looks at the fire with an expression as if he swallowed a lemon, tears in his eyes. Solana apologizes, acknowledging that he is the one who is suffering the most. She blames herself for not noticing anything and for being harsh with him. Roland says it's all fine, that it's not her fault. He states that only he should blame himself for not being able to protect Felicia. With anger, he swears revenge against the Demon King. Roland vows to hunt down this Demon King in every corner of the world and end him. With that determination, the girl doesn't lag behind. Solana then declares that she will fight by his side, which takes Roland by surprise. She places her hand over his in a gesture of unity and promise. The girl reminds him that they are family and that he shouldn't carry this alone. Roland is left speechless, touched by the girl's loyalty. He then agrees that Felicia was also taken from her and that this revenge is not just his. The next day, Solana is ready to depart, but he asks how they will find the villain. He explains that the Demon King appears out of nowhere, without a fixed territory, but he remembers that the villain showed up when he defeated Malagdo, one of the henchmen. Solana understands and says she knows where to start. She mentions that among the recent bounties, there is one with an insane value. The bounty is for the 7 spirits of Malagdo, and there's a rumor of a ghost in the castle. Then, the girl suggests that if it's true, that should be their first target, and so they set off, fully focused on hunting the ghost of Malagdo. As they travel north, crossing the desert towards the castle, he hides his face and ties his arm as they take less crowded routes. Solana observes in silence, thoughtful. Then she says that it's been a while since they traveled together. Crazy. Our protagonist unleashed the bomb. It has been 2 years since they joined forces. He explained that he couldn't take the girl on the insane missions that only went bad, but the girl stood firm and said that today she is fierce, stronger, and that together they can take on anyone. Roland recalled that even with his sword, he couldn't even scratch the Demon King's nail, so he let it slip. If we had all three together, including Felicia, things would be different. He remembered the angel's promise and believed he had a way to bring Felicia back. Solana, with a clever smile, agreed that positive thinking was the way, and they would head into battle together. He felt that the girl was lifting him up and was touched, just as Felicia had in the past. The girl was trying to be strong for him. Our hero smiled and agreed that thinking about good vibes was important. Solana, shining like the sun, saw that she had raised his spirits. The guy was grateful to have her by his side in these complicated situations and swore he would fight with his new arm, protecting Solana at all costs. After a while of their long travels, they arrived at Maladgo's insane castle. Solana poked him, saying, "I've been here when I defeated the officer, but has anything changed?" He replied that nothing had changed, and that the place remained dark and menacing as always. Worse yet, the fire on the throne was lukewarm, which could only mean one thing. The protagonist realized that Maladgo was still alive and hiding out there. He told Solana to stay alert. Out of nowhere, a voice announced that Lord Maladgo was not home, and a demon boy appeared, introducing himself as Kronos, the caretaker of the place. Kronos quickly recognized the guy and asked how he survived, laughing when he heard that the Demon King had finished with Holland. Our protagonist charged forward with a kick, but Kronos easily dodged and got angry for not finishing his speech yet. Then the demon attempted to attack Solana casually from behind, but the guy blocked it instantly. Solana was stunned, realizing that Sky's speed was greater than Maladgo's. Kronos remained relaxed, smiling, and commented that he was glad to see Holland's right hand, noting that it was feminine. The demon began to laugh, saying he needed to tell the Demon King about this. When he thought a demon would answer his questions, he said he would only answer one. He revealed that Maladgo had gone to Villacuna, where the survivors were trying to rebuild. Roland and Solana cried in the corner upon discovering that he was planning to destroy everything again. Kronos taunted, saying he wouldn't hold them back, and the protagonist stood there reflecting, but Solana pushed him to head to the village. He decided he couldn't abandon the survivors. He went there and said he wouldn't let the atrocity pass. Chrono mocked the threat, cracking jokes, but made it clear that he wouldn't spread anything because the situation got interesting. Meanwhile, over at the Vicuña, the trouble was already brewing, with the house on fire and a survivor screaming in pain, held by a monster. This monster was Malago, who asked the guy where the body of our protagonist was. He bragged that being in charge of an area was the greatest honor, recalling when he was defeated and the humiliation he felt. Malago couldn't accept being the first to be defeated by just any human, so, shouting, he declared that he would do everything again to win. He said he returned from hell and would drag Roland back there with him. The extra then asks if Roland wasn't turned into a monster by the demons. Malago was surprised to hear that our protagonist had become an abomination. He said that this story didn't match what the Demon King told him. The man was terrified to realize that the demon didn't know about the transformation. The general then demanded that the survivor tell all the details of what happened. Before the man could say anything, Malago noticed a new presence and ordered him to stop. Our hero spoke. Surprised to see Malago alive before him, Malago returned the taunt, stating that it was his speech and laughed at the situation. He said this was perfect because it saved him the trouble of searching for our protagonist's body. Malago shouted that he wanted to fight to the death once again with our hero, but our protagonist said the general's conclusion was a great mistake. Then the villain noticed that the duel was full of obstacles. Solana, all empowered, shouted that she wouldn't follow his whims and that she was also going to get involved. With her demon arm, she tried to stop the girl from jumping into the fight. Then, Malago decided to summon fire soldiers straight from the ground to attack the village. He declared that the flame soldiers would burn people alive and that if the girl tried to save anyone, he wouldn't stop. Solana was furious with his logic and called him a demon. The general said what he really wanted. It's a fair duel, no frills. Selena then decides that she will stop the soldiers and trusts her brother to fight. Our protagonist agrees and asks her to protect the village while he goes into battle. He tries to reassure her, saying that he has beaten Malago before and won't lose again. With that, the girl runs to save the villagers, believing in the hero. Malago, all excited, prepares to rewrite the ending of their last fight. He notices our boy's demonic arm and laughs, saying that things have changed. The villain asks about the sword that defeated him and that he planned to break it, but Holland tells him to cut the chatter and come fight. The general, as always, complains that the guy is annoying for not wanting to talk before the fight. Without further ado, the villain charges at him. In his thoughts, the hero admits that he only sent that idea to calm Selena down. He realizes he is at a disadvantage without his sword and with the enemy's power boosted. The scales have totally shifted, and the fight is going to be much harder, but even so, he won't falter in this battle again. He decides to treat the demonic arm as if it were his old sword, so he tries to dodge the general's strike instead of confronting him head-on. Our hero performs remarkably well, dodging with insane agility. Even without a sword, his war instincts are sharp as always. But the general shouts that he's too weak and lands a heavy blow. The impact sends our boy flying, but he quickly recovers. He realizes that the reach of an arm is almost nothing compared to a sword. The general weighed the maneuver and saw how he dodges. Then Malago decides to use an even more brutal attack to finish him off. Our hero is sharp, watching the demon prepare his next move. The general unleashes his infernal roar, a huge fireball that explodes everything around our protagonist. The boy notices that the flames of the devil are more potent than before. He knows that if he takes another hard hit, it's game over for him. The general taunts our hero, asking what's wrong, but the guy replies that maybe what he said was wrong. With a firm gaze, he declares that he will prove otherwise now. The general then jumps and tries to crush our protagonist with his big axe. Our boy realizes that he can't stay like this anymore, and he needs to use his power. He decides he has no choice but to unleash all his might. Then he activates his ability, Usurper's Arm, and grabs the general's arm. Malago is shocked to feel his energy being drained by our hero. He grips his demonic arm tightly to siphon all the energy. With the stolen strength, he lands a brutal blow on the general. The impact sends the villain flying, creating a cloud of dust, but he realizes it wasn't that effective. Malago is angry about having his power stolen, but that's not enough. The general laments that their revenge ended in a farce. Our protagonist watches as his arm transforms into stone after absorbing the power. Malago calls him grotesque and asks what he thinks he's doing. Our hero, all furious, says he has no right to mock his arm. The general hesitates and asks what he meant by that. Suddenly, Malago starts laughing and says he finally understands the situation. He realizes that the arm belongs to the hero's beloved, who has turned into a monster. The protagonist remembers Felicia and apologizes for becoming a hero. The general calls him sentimental and threatens to call for help from the Demon King regarding Selena. The protagonist realizes that the power he has accumulated is still not enough to face the crazy general. He shouts fiercely that he won't let this guy win again and tells him to disappear. Then Malago, without thinking twice, unleashes his hellish roar, this time with everything. But our hero, in desperation, cries out for his arm, stealing the energy from his attack. With that, he charges towards the explosion of fire, determined to absorb everything. The village, which was already on fire, became even more devastated, looking like a true apocalypse, with the flames consuming everything around. The demon general was there, relaxed, laughing at the destruction, and at that moment, our protagonist appears with his arm ablaze, declaring that he will absorb all that power. He explains that now he has fire in his arm taken from the general himself. Malago, impressed, sees that the guy even managed to steal his flame, but the general is not happy. On the contrary, he looks at the protagonist with intense bravado. But listen, Roland couldn't catch everything and is all bruised up. The hero responds that it's just a little bump and he's not going to give up like that. The general, pulling the axe out of his pocket, prepares to silence the protagonist, who admits he doesn't feel light at all, but he'll go at it anyway. He then arms himself with a counterattack, using double the power of the fire he absorbed, and they charge at each other in a titanic clash. The impact creates a fissure in the ground, and Malago, in disbelief, sees his axe being shattered by the power of our brave hero. He asks what's happening, and our hero boasts that he's using the flames to enhance his strength and speed. But the general, unfazed, tells him not to get too cocky just because he grabbed his flame. Then Malago begins to unleash all his firepower as if it were an explosion. He warns that the hero's power doesn't come close to his, engulfing himself in flames and showing everyone the might he possesses. He lunges at the protagonist like a fireball and yells that the hero has arrived too early for this duel. Our fool then prepares for the clash of powers, which is going to be an explosion indeed. Solana, who was beating up the fire soldiers, stops and watches with concern the struggle between the two giants. The clash generates a wave of energy that spreads throughout the entire village as the two face off in an insane exchange of fire and blue energy strikes. Malago screams that this contest is going to amplify his power even more, and our hero feels all the fire pressure. He knows he can't withstand those flames for long, but he's not the type to give up. The protagonist realizes that this very power is what he needs. The general gets furious seeing the hero absorbing even more of his flame. Enraged, he decides to amplify his firepower and screams. Both scream and unleash all their force in an epic final confrontation. The general transforms into a beast of fire to attack the hero and charges to incinerate him once and for all, but the hero already warned that he would steal all the power and manages to absorb the general's flame into his arm. He, wide-eyed and in disbelief, screams that this is impossible. Then, our hero delivers a final strike with all the power he just stole. The general gets upset upon realizing that his own fire is being used against him. Consequently, his body starts to disintegrate with no way to stop it. Our hero looks at his arm and feels the immense power he now possesses. He knows he can't use that same power as a final blow, but he can use the flame multiple times. With this, he understands that he can defeat the officers and steal their powers for himself. He then asks Felicia to lend him her strength until he can take his revenge. That moment, Selena calls him, and he turns to see the girl approaching. She says she has defeated most of the demons and that the remaining ones burned to the ground. The girl then asks, worried, if our hero is okay. He reassures her, saying it's nothing and that he's all right despite everything. Then Selena gets real and suggests, let's get out of here quickly before the cleanup crew arrives. She's afraid they might attack him thinking he's a demon too. She realizes that his desire for revenge is blinding him and that she needs to help. So she organizes him and they start walking, leaving the destroyed village behind. The survivors he saved watch in silence. They see Roland and the girl moving away amidst the chaos. One of the guys shouts, Roland, you didn't turn into a monster, right? The protagonist stops, unsure of what to say, feeling doubtful. The guy remarks that he thought he had transformed into a monster, like the others, but still asserts that Roland is human. Roland questions whether he can truly say he is not a monster. He recalls all the beatings and the demonic power he now possesses. Before he can respond, Selena cuts in and exclaims, of course, he's human! She shouts to the crowd that he is the same big brother as always. The girl mentions that he faced the miraculous and saved everyone, that he's like a hero. Selena wraps up her speech calling him the greatest hero the village has ever known. Roland gets all emotional and calls the girl by her name. A survivor agrees, stating that Roland is human and a source of pride, thanking him for saving them all and always looking out for the group. Other villagers also come forward, expressing their gratitude and showing support. One of the men says he will inform the suppression team that the rumor was baseless. Roland even thanks him, but already asks, don't do that, man, because a misunderstanding is certain. He explains that once doubt appears, it's hard to get rid of it. The group realizes that even though it's just a rumor, it could cause trouble for them. One of the guys said that if the entire kingdom thinks Roland is a monster, but Roland calms them down and asks them to take care of the village while he is away. The man agrees with a serious look and says he will take care of everything. Thus, the two prepare to continue their journey of revenge and redemption. One of the survivors asks to wait and offers to heal their wounds. He says they will return to the village. Then, boom. Suddenly, the remains of Malago's body start to glow with a purple energy. A purple smoke envelops the two, and a voice echoes, the connection has been made! Our protagonist turns around in surprise and sees the spectral figure of the demon Kronos. Kronos appears as a projection and says he can only speak like this, in a horror style. The hero realizes he can hear him, but does not feel his presence. The demon comments that Malago has been defeated again by the protagonist. He explains that necromancy only happens once, and man, the general is done for. Out of curiosity, our star asks who he is and if he is not one of Malago's subordinates. Kronos reveals that he introduced himself because he was appointed by the Demon King. With a wicked smile, he lets slip that he is the new officer in Malago's place. With that, a new threat appears before our hero, complicating his journey. Roland is shocked to discover that the guy is a new officer of the demon army. Kronos introduces himself as the high necromancer successor to Malago. He says he knows of our protagonist's desire for revenge, but the Demon King couldn't care less. Kronos also gives off a vibe that it would be a shame if all of the guy's efforts were in vain. Our boy asks what he wants, and the demon says he enjoys human despair. He gets closer and mentions that someone like our protagonist is a true delight. Kronos even says it would be a waste to end the hero so quickly. With a wicked smile, he provokes that he's eager to see what happens when he loses Selena. The girl doesn't flinch and screams that she will fight and make him regret underestimating her. The demon laughs and says that without hope, despair does not arise. Inviting them to give their all in the next Kronos, then says goodbye and his projection disappears like smoke, leaving the two behind. Solana comments that he vanished and that looking there would be useless. Now our hero understands that Malago was resurrected by him and there is now a new officer. He realizes that if a new officer arises with each defeat, the fight will never end. So, the only way to put an end to this mess with the demons is to take them all out at once, you know? Out of
nowhere, Solana gets excited and mentions that if there's resurrection magic, who knows? Maybe they can bring her sister Felicia back. Our protagonist is stunned by this idea in the midst of the chaos, but soon he smiles and comments that it's typical of her to be optimistic. He's in, agrees with the goal, and says that now it's time to move forward. But of course, first he needs to tend to his wounds to be ready for the fight. With a mischievous smile, Solana tells him that after this, she
will train him personally. She thinks she's more experienced in martial arts, showing confidence in her gaze. The girl assures him that she will strengthen him later, and then the protagonist has that crazy dream in a white and empty room. Felicia's figure appears and he almost bursts with joy seeing her there again. She arrives all smiling, with a golden aura around her, and he feels sorry for not being able to speak or touch her, and wishes for freedom. In the dream, he questions whether Felicia is also bored there. Felicia simply smiles, calm and understanding, always beautiful. The two gaze at each other, perfectly in sync, and out of nowhere he notices a flame that seems to be that power from Malago that he absorbed. He asks if it's not hot, but the flame is gentle, easygoing. The girl then approaches with a sweet smile, gives a warm kiss, and disappears. Our hero is awestruck, happy with the affectionate gesture from his beloved, closes his eyes feeling the warmth and love she left behind. Back in the real world, he wakes up seeing Solana taking care of him. She sends a smile and says that she made some soup for him. Solana informs him that after breakfast, they will begin today's training. The guy looks at the flame in his hand and thinks it's all good to go on like this. The girl says they will resume. That creepy training from yesterday, she brings up his weakness in positioning. He admits that he still doesn't handle weight and space well. He recalls that during the fight against the Miracle, he lost a chance because of this. Solana recommends that he try to do what she taught him before. The guy agrees and prepares to show what he learned. He then positions himself and starts to move with absurd agility. His movements are quick and precise, kicking up dust and leaves. It's all so fast that the birds get startled and fly away. He throws a punch into the air that nearly hits Selena's face. The girl is stunned by the speed and power of the strike. She shouts, asking why he didn't do that during their training. With a sparkle in her eyes, she wonders if he's a martial arts expert, but the hero says he's far from it, that he just had time to practice. He explains that he spent the whole night on guard and repeated the movement. Solana is impressed by his dedication and calls him reckless. The guy feels a bit embarrassed by the compliment but accepts it. She then smiles and asks him to try the reverse movement. Solana teaches him to control the area around him and not leave any space. She's worried because she knows he's reckless in fights. She tells him he can fight multiple opponents at once using this technique. The protagonist promises to stop using it. He explains that even when trying, he can't replicate her speed. Solana feels a little embarrassed by the compliment. He then reveals an idea to use his own traits against his rivals. The guy remembers that when he defeated the Miracle, he had a submission request for those monsters. Then he cuts his hand and lets the blood drip on a stone to attract them. He assures that he'll protect Sephiroth during the plan. With that, he throws the bloodied stone into the forest to lure the beasts. The smell of blood infests the forest and soon catches the attention of something. Dude, seriously, red eyes, began to glow in the darkness of the forest. Total bizarre. A hellhound tiger appeared following the trail of blood like it was a radar, you know? Poor Solana almost freaked out. Seeing a bunch of monsters approaching, the crazy guy thought the key to winning was to know if the technique really worked. He got pretty smart about it. He prepared for an insane duel, one against many, against the dogs of trouble. Meanwhile, two lost and scared children were wandering through the forest calling for help. One girl remarked that being there was lethal, and, out of nowhere, the other child revealed himself to be Kronos in disguise. Kronos, with the smile of someone up to no good, warned her that she wouldn't get dragged into the hero's fight. Back at the shack, our hero prepared to throw some serious punches. He figured out that the dogs attacked in groups and were well organized, so he shouted for them to come. One of the dogs, angry, with teeth sharper than a knife, charged with all its might, ready to attack. Our guy braced himself to retaliate. The monster jumped at him with its demonic arm. The beast easily caught him in midair. I mean, it was way too easy. Solana shouted that the others were coming up from behind, a problem that was starting to get real. He realized that the monsters weren't messing around and were attacking in a very coordinated manner. Remembering Solana talking about attack and escape tactics, he decided to go wild and fight head-on. With an insane battle cry, he began to strike with all his strength. He hit one of the dogs with a blow that was simply absurd. With that, he stole the defeated creature's energy to hit harder on the next ones. He declared he would plunder everyone's strength, even if it cost him his life. He wouldn't back down until he got his revenge. Solana was impressed, saying she was starting to find her own way to fight, and so he continued to dish out punches with skill and precision. After the battle, the guy looked around and saw another wave of monsters coming. These new hellhounds were even bigger and angrier, you know? He then stated that he had trained enough and faced the pack. Out of nowhere, he sensed a presence and went into total alert mode. He realized that the pack leader was using his dogs as bait to escape. Strange. With an epic war cry, he charged forward with his arm engulfed in flames and blue energy. Meanwhile, Kronos was there with the lost girl in the forest. The girl wanted to go back home, and he asked if he knew the way, pointed in a direction and said it was safe, but it was all a trap. He let slip that a hellhound was going to attack and that if she wanted to blame someone, it should be Holland. And then, goodbye girl, he disappeared and left her alone. Pure chaos, the girl, not understanding anything and full of fear, begged not to be left behind. She started to cry from fear with the sounds of the forest. Suddenly, she felt a threatening presence approaching and froze in fear, tears streaming down her face. The girl screamed that she didn't want to die, but before the creature could attack, our hero arrived and killed the dog with a strong blow. With a red flash, our warrior brought down the monster and protected the little girl. He held her tightly, thinking how a child was alone in such a crazy place. The girl looked up, scared, seeing his demonic arm, and was in shock. He felt the weight of responsibility, knowing that his actions had attracted the monsters. So he went there, told the girl to close her eyes, and covered her little face. "Run, beast!" He took off, carrying the girl while the hellhounds attacked, and as he fled, another monster appeared behind, but he had to protect the child. He blocked the attack, knowing that staying defensive would only drain his strength. The pack lunged at him, and he tried to defend against them all. Now he was angry. Out of nowhere, Solana jumped into the fight with a crazy kick, warning that she could be counted on. He was shocked, somewhat relieved, calling his partner's name as she joined the fray. She apologized for being late, and soon focused on the child, concerned for her well-being. He explained that he found the girl being attacked, and the little girl, in tears, introduced herself as Lily. Solana gave an excited thumbs up, saying it was a good sign that the little girl could talk. He calmly handed Lily over to Solana, asking her to keep the little one away from the fight. With the girl out of danger, he turned to face the pack of hellhounds surrounding them. Meanwhile, Solana squeezed Lily close to her, curious if the girl had been hurt. He, looking somewhat lost, scratched his head and asked again what the girl's name was. His partner then asked why Lily was alone in such a sinister part of the forest. The girl lowers her head, sad, and tells that she was with a boy who disappeared. She said the boy told her he would take her home, but vanished after bringing her to a place. The hero realizes that she was probably called by some demon that is still after her. Solana asks Lily if she remembers the exact way she came, and the girl firmly confirms. He points to a path in the forest, saying that her home, the Karike village, is there. The young man observes the village, seeing the site of the tranquil settlement in the distance. He notices that the village is quite far from the city, ideal for not being found. He then turns to Lily, showing his demonic arm and asking if she can keep this little secret. The little girl, without thinking, asks why, catching him by surprise by saying that she thinks his arm is really cool. Her eyes shine as she explains that the arm is cool because it was the one that saved her. He covers his face, embarrassed that she saw the fight, even though he had asked her to close her eyes beforehand. Solana says that she is also glad he was there and that his arm is really cool to her. He lowers himself slightly and questions if something so monstrous can really be seen as cool. The little girl simply gives a warm and reassuring smile, almost as if she truly speaks the truth. He observes his own hand and, reluctantly, agrees that maybe she is right. The group arrives at the entrance of Karike village, which is quite peaceful and calm. They cross the small market, noticing that there are only older villagers and a few young women with their tasks. Now with the hood on, he realizes that the lack of young people makes it harder to be recognized. Lily points to a pretty little house on the road, announcing that it is her home while calling for her mother. A woman appears at the door, welcoming Lily and questioning about the strangers with her. Lily, very excited, explains that her new friend saved her from a monster. The mother hugs her, asking if everything is okay. The girl says she is fine because they protected her. Lily explains that without them, she would be in trouble, leaving her mother in shock and feeling guilty. The girl lowers her head and apologizes. The woman wraps her daughter in a tight embrace. Saying that he understands and is just happy that she is safe, the hero and Solana watch the emotionally charged scene at the door. Lily's mother turns to them, apologizing and thanking them, and asks for their names. Solana happily introduces herself as a martial artist. When it's time to introduce himself, the hero quickly gives his false name. Laura, the woman, finds the name somewhat unusual, and he apologizes, saying it sounds more feminine. She ignores this and insists on inviting them for a meal as a form of thanks, even with not much food available. Turning to her daughter, she calls Lily to help with the food, and the girl agrees cheerfully. With everything settled, the mother warmly invites the two travelers to come inside. Once inside, he whispers to Solana that she didn't need to use her false name again. He remembers pretending to be her older brother back then, a memory tied to that same name. Changing the subject, he asks if she noticed the lack of men in the village, and she confirms. He suspects a demon is up to no good nearby, attacking the local men. He decides they should stay for a while to confront the demon and take the opportunity to strengthen themselves. Solana agrees that they need to develop new fighting styles and skills. Regarding his arm, he mentions that bringing peace to the world is a dream we all share, and she agrees. Just then, Lily appears peeking through the door, curious if they are coming in. The crazy guy has already arrived, claiming they were ready, and the three entered the little girl's house. Outside, the village seemed completely quiet. Only the elderly were about, like an old man resting with his staff. Inside, they settled at the wooden table, enjoying a warm meal with Lily and her mother. Proudly, Lily wanted to know if the food was good, and even showed that she cut the big vegetables. After tasting it, Solana did not hold back on her compliments for the girl, but the mother quickly apologized for the simple dish. Her companion insisted there was no need for an apology, assuring her that the stew was spectacular. The woman smiled, but with a sad look revealed that she had been struggling since her husband died 5 years ago. The hero pushed the hood back with a serious look and asked if it was the demon's fault. She confirmed, telling that the demons lived in the ruins. Near the village years ago, the woman kept saying that her husband was one of the victims and that Lily was too young to remember him. Solana asked why she didn't just leave, and the mother replied that she had nowhere to go. She explained that the village chief asked for help from the guild, but was ignored. The young man realized that this was quite common. Appeals for help from small villages are always forgotten. The mother, her hands clutching her apron, felt powerless to complain, thinking that other regions might be worse off. He gave her a steady look, saying that she shouldn't think that way. His words surprised Solana and the woman. He continued asserting that someone else's suffering does not justify leaving her and the village in the mud. The woman looked into his eyes, tears welling up, and called him by his true name, Rowan. He asked her to take them to the ruins, promising that they would take care of the problem. She seemed to hesitate before completing about Lily defending her and proudly stated that her older brother was fierce. The girl quickly covered her mouth and the mother smiled, saying it was nothing. The hero reassured her, ensuring that, although they may not seem like it, they were quite capable. Later, on a hill, reflecting, they realized that the crowd had already grown accustomed to the presence of demons. He believed that no one should have to go through this, and that's why they would fight. Upon arriving at the ruins, they confirmed that this was the place and that the demons must be inside. Standing before the entrance of a dark cavern, they realized that the place was dangerous due to traps. The young man agreed that it is a golden rule not to carelessly enter enemy territory. He then said he had a trick and asked Solana to lend him some gunpowder. Despite being swift, his partner also used magical tools like gunpowder to give that power up. One of her coolest weapons was a pair of gloves with explosive magic. He prepared himself and, with his skill combined with the flames of Maladgo, created a massive energy. He warned Solana that he would use this power and was ready for heavy action. He launched the turbocharged gunpowder, sending a wave of red and blue energy straight into the cave. The entrance of the ruins exploded with an absurd brilliance, making the ground tremble. He ordered that the best way to deal with the nest was to exterminate it quickly. Solana was worried about the historical value, but he insisted that the living come first, with the entrance being nothing but pure junk. Now he declared that the real fight was just beginning. Out of nowhere, the ground groaned and the structure of the ruins started to crumble. He murmured irritably as they were forced to retreat with the cave collapsing while the dust settled. A colossal figure of stone rose from the debris. Inside, a demon realized that the collapse was not accidental, but an attack. The creature, sporting a monocle, growled, aware of the chaos this represented for his plans. He punched angrily, furious that someone had the audacity to mess with him in his territory. The demon was fuming. He had already eliminated all the annoying humans from the village one by one. The hero looked up, confronting the golem, certain that this was the beast that killed Lily's father. He knew demons crafted elaborate plans to despair humanity. Their henchmen are usually lifeless monsters, and this one was something different. Golems are just animated earth, not beings from which he can drain energy. The stone giant came down with a fist, aiming to crush the young warrior in one blow. He held back the massive punch, struggling as the ground shook with the impact. As the demonic hand shone, he realized he could not siphon the power from a lifeless creature. A bead of sweat trickled down his face, realizing that this golem was an odd counterweight to his arm. Up above, the demon watched bored, irritated to see his creation restrained. But just at that moment, Solana burst through the wall, kicking the side of the demon. A droplet of sweat ran down the crazy one's forehead as he recognized that this golem was more bizarre than he expected. To support his arm, the demon observed everything from above with a bored expression, angry to see his creation held back and unable to act. And then, out of nowhere, Solana broke a wall with a kick, aiming for the demon's head. The creature calmly dodged, deciding to deal with the girl first, whom he already disliked, before getting back to the fun. He glared with an intimidating look, promising to end all of it quickly. Meanwhile, the trouble with the gigantic golem continues as the hero and his buddy dodge its attacks. He notices that even though it's not an elite monster, the golem is surprisingly good at fighting. Then, the giant raises its arms and prepares to call for reinforcements. The ground shakes as the army of smaller golems rises from the earth to join the fight. He warns Solana that he's counting on her, realizing that the situation is quite similar to the previous battle against Malago. She replies that she has never faced such a colossal golem and that attacking head-on is very risky. The giant golem raises its fists, roaring that it will crush both of them at the same time. The speed of its stone fist is monstrous, crashing down towards the young warrior. He manages to block the blow with his demonic arm, causing an absurd shockwave. In the meantime, one of the smaller golems lands a punch on his side. Solana, quick as a flash, jumps in and takes out the attacking golem with a single fierce kick. He struggles against the weight, realizing that he can't break the fist without using his stolen energy. His buddy calls out to him, trying to distract Lu while the smaller strikes draw near. She shouts that he's not using his weight correctly. Remembering the technique, he recalls the lesson, plants his feet firmly on the ground, and channels the strength through his posture. On his demonic arm, a red explosion erupts from his hand, completely destroying the golem's colossal fist. He realizes that he can win by using the technique to maximize the impact instead of relying only on strength. The giant's arm crumbles, sending chunks of rock and dust flying everywhere. The hero sees that by using this method, even an opponent that cannot drain will take damage. Solana watches in awe, seeing his attack disintegrate the stone that seemed indestructible. To her surprise, a new arm sprouts from the golem's injured shoulder. The demon in his hideout gives that smirk, explaining that the form of the golem can change, and now it's humanoid. Then, the demon reveals himself, introducing himself as the archdemon. The golem transforms and regenerates a new arm, now a massive club the size of a house. The hero recoils at the new arm, realizing that its regeneration is absurdly fast. He dodges another powerful blow, barely escaping the relentless attack of the golem. He grits his teeth, astonished by the beast's rapid regeneration. The golem raises its newly made weapons, a spiked mace and a sharp drill, clearly not to be underestimated. He remembers that the only way to stop a golem is to destroy its core, but this brute likely has several. With a determined gaze, he knows the only way out is to find and detonate each core. At that moment, his partner shouts for him to change position. He turns, curious to see her plan. She leaps high, using the body of the golem as a trampoline to gain height. She explains that, since he is focused on hunting cores, her speed is perfect for the mission. With insane skill, she zigzags across the golem's body, running up its arm towards its head. The puppeteer watches from afar, muttering in anger at the girl's persistence. As she runs, the golem tries to knock her down, but she evades with agility. She performs a mid-air, acrobatic maneuver, dodging the strike while stones fly around her. Despite the golem's resilience, she has a plan to find the weak points without needless destruction. In a precise strike, she feels the vibration and manages to locate one core's position. Meanwhile, the young warrior faces the smaller golems, determined not to leave his partner in the lurch. She strikes the golem's chest and shoulder, locating 2 more cores and saying she will help. She shouts for him to switch now, revealing the 3 cores she discovered. The demon's eyes widened in shock and rage as he realized the intruders had uncovered his golem's weakness. Praising his partner for her work, the hero charges forward with absurd speed. He leaps high, flying towards the golem's shoulder. With his fist prepared and delivering a powerful kick, he breaks the stone, revealing the hidden core. He sees the shining blue gem, his demonic arm radiating red energy, ready to crush everything. The puppeteer cursed from his hiding spot, realizing that his creation was one step away from destruction. When the first core bursts, the golem's body collapses like a house of cards, the demon furious. The golem's arm comes crashing down on the young man as if trying to squash a pillow. The guy descends onto the monster's arm, and with his hand glowing, he pushes everything deep into the stone. His hand dives into the creature's chest, hunting for the second core, and lo and behold, he finds it. The second core bursts, and the golem shatters even more. The stone trembles with a series of internal explosions as the cores break apart. The fish screams internally, knowing there's only one core left, and it won't last long like this. The remaining parts start to move and reshape, already preparing for a fierce transformation. The last core glows yellow, becoming the heart of the new form, and everyone is curious about what will happen next. The puppet master lets out a wicked laugh as he reveals the new form, like a flying ship with a mischievous command. Fish, your new winged golem, starts flying away from the brawl. The demon, realizing the vibe, thinks about bolting, wondering who these unwanted guests are. He is content to torment the weak to survive, and that's enough for him. As he tugs at the line, a fire explosion streaks by like a rocket. The puppet master sneers, saying that the attacks are too weak, but the girl, full of mischief, has an ace up her sleeve. At this point, she thinks about unleashing her magical gloves with everything left for a final attack. With a battle cry, she releases all her power and charges at the fleeing demon. The demon's eyes nearly pop out as a beam of light shines like a lighthouse. The explosion is brutal, sending a powerful shockwave across the battlefield. After the chaos, only rubble of broken rock remains where the golem stood. The demon is done for, sprawled on the ground, while the two heroes exchange a victorious glance. The puppet master, terrified, pleads not to be killed. The hero, grabbing him by the collar, asks if he was the one who lured the little girl into the forest. The demon, nervous, denies it and claims that his way of killing is by having fun with men and leaving the children in despair, explaining that he enjoys watching the little one's misfortune when the protectors are gone, thinking he got away with it. He begs to be set free, but that only makes the hero angrier. He soon realizes that if the demon isn't lying, there are more people in this mess. Oops! The demon tries to summon a piece of the golem for a surprise attack, but a crazy guy barging in with a shout only to take a massive punch and get knocked to the ground. The young warrior sends the demon flying, finishing him off once and for all. What's left of the master is just a broken monocle tossed among the stones. The hero notices that, unlike other demons, this one left no traces of power whatsoever. His partner calls him and they decide to head back to the village, at least for now. On the way back, the hall mentions he will help them navigate around. The vibe is that he is apologizing for the mess with Lily. While Masa recovers, Garo, Gyro's husband, is in a hurry. His friend suspects that the demon is in the neighborhood. Lily, in fact, has sinister plans. They will, even if she, grows and keeps outsiders away. The girl asks why they should stay. Elle offers to help, and the boss says it's time to leave. The kids feel a pang in their hearts with their farewell. Mueller insists, asking if she saw when everything happened with the guests. Lily sadly agrees, and Solana gives her a pat on the head. As the child prepares to leave, she says there is no way to stop it, feeling rushed. Sammy says goodbye, the same with a look of gratitude and love, asking if they will return soon. Deep down, the young man agrees, but sees sadness in her eyes, and that's when things get tough. Frustrated because even getting rid of a demon didn't bring peace to the village, the group makes a stop first, halting in a town to grab more gold pills and collect their reward money. Seriously, man, it was all about keeping the business running. Honestly, they were more in the mood for the altruistic vibe. The biggest maze thing happened with trade support from the Gringlet Kingdom, and, in the middle of this, in a luxurious room, there was someone with a strange appearance, like a goat in person, who said nothing and held a wanted poster. The guy looked super relaxed, like he already knew what was going on. He took a glance at the poster with a sly smile, Oh, and Accelerated was keeping an eye on the Great Guild. What the others didn't know was that he was a hot target, able to cash in on the puppet master. He thought going to Accelerated would be a huge blunder because everyone wanted his head. The guy had been in the city several times and, theoretically, someone might recognize him. Can you imagine a fight breaking out with all these people? You can't avoid hurting innocent bystanders, His partner, kicking around ideas, remembered that the bounty for minor demons was exactly the kind of thing that always went ignored. She leaned against the table, admitting that his transformation into a monster was big news, but she wanted to know if everything was okay with the decision-making mood. She insisted that they needed cash and new supplies, like gunpowder and gloves. She got closer and said that Accelerated decided was the only place that offered all of that. Leaning over the table, she gave him that determined look like, "You have to go." He paused to think if she was just trying to keep her connections so he wouldn't end up isolated. Feeling he couldn't reject her goodwill, he finally agreed to go, but with one condition: no entering the guild. The city called Alfred was the largest in the Gringard kingdom, overflowing with people. That place was the center of everything. Alice traded in everything: iron, food, medicine, weapons, and even magical items. When cash and goods converge, you can bet the people show up, making Alfred a hive of activity. Thanks to the brave adventurers and knights, the city was still standing, even with the fear of demons. He knew that if the Demon King truly attacked, the city's defenses would be a walk in the park. With the hood over his head, he noticed that the city was as crowded as always, keeping track of the shifting crowd with his friend. They knew everything would go smoothly as long as they didn't draw attention. His partner reminded him of the basics. They needed money for anything. She offered to go to the guild to file the subjugation, while he went looking for an inn. Through the crowded streets, he was trying to find a place to stay for the night. Out of nowhere, a commotion beside him caught his attention, and he went to see what was happening. A huge man was cornering a young shopkeeper, accusing him of selling wet gunpowder. The shopkeeper, all nervous, swore he didn't even remember selling anything to the guy. The bully grabbed the shopkeeper by the collar, demanding that he prove his innocence. The young warrior thought blood on the wood made more sense than shaken to describe that place. He knew the real deal. The crowded street was overflowing with darkness. Everyone there only cared about their own routine, ignoring their neighbor. Even with the prosperity, the threat of demons always lingered. Without thinking much, he charged forward, grabbing the brute's arm and telling him to let go of the shopkeeper. The guy turned with rage, but the friend didn't let himself be intimidated. With his demonic arm glowing, he emphasized that the bully had no way to prove his purchase. The brute felt an immense pressure and could barely breathe. With one last warning to watch himself, the guy shoved him and the bully fell. The shopkeeper, surprised and grateful, asked how he could repay the good deed. The young man suggested he give away some gunpowder for free instead of any money, but in truth asked the shopkeeper to keep that help in mind for a fighter from the black market who might show up. The shopkeeper was touched by the gesture, even not knowing what gunpowder the salon used. He agreed to let it go. As he walked away, already adapted to the situation, he decided to continue his search for a place, passing through the luxurious buildings filled with nobles. It was a world very far from the villages. He followed along the promenade, feeling a strange presence, as if he were being watched. He didn't want to cause a stir, but a blue whirlwind appeared right in front of him. He sighed, realizing that, as expected, he couldn't slip past the eyes of that particular person. The energy solidified, revealing a blonde man calling out the name of his old acquaintance, Charles. He remembered his past life, before losing his arm, when he would spend his days eliminating monsters and demons. He was a capable warrior, fearlessly battling hordes of skeletal soldiers on the battlefield. He faced the enormous chief of a skeletal army, ready to confront him alone, just when the crazy guy thought he was going to be swallowed by the monster. A fierce ice spell shattered the beast mercilessly. In the midst of the snowstorm, from the broken pieces of the creature emerged a calm and powerful figure. It was Charles, the Wizard of the Brave. He always arrived at just the right moment. The guy introduced himself as Charles Glass and asked if Roland was alive. The hero could only stand, dumbfounded, staring at that monster falling with a single blow. Charles, all worried, asked if he was hurt, and the hero felt even embarrassed about it. Charles is like the son of the magic big boss, with a brave lineage and always on the front lines. The guy is special because he genuinely cares about people, whether noble or commoner. Because of this, he is always summoned by both the wealthy and those in need of help. Charles accepted the hero's invitation to go to his village, honored by the call. The two warriors set off for Akuna village, the hero's peaceful home before the chaos. Upon arriving, he calls out for his sister, Felicia, announcing that he's back. She appears, a beautiful woman with long white hair, smiling to welcome him. Suddenly, Solana pops up from around a corner, all excited to see the being Charles. Charles greets the girl, remembering that it had been a while since they last saw each other. Felicia introduces herself, and he gives a polite bow, showing himself to be very pleased. He introduces himself as the eldest son of the Glass household and an administrator of the kingdom. She is left speechless upon realizing she has received a noble from the Glass family. Slightly embarrassed by his status, she wants to tidy up the house, but he tells her to relax. Solana intervenes, saying that Charles isn't the type of noble who looks down on others. Charles adds that, in the end, nobility doesn't provide protection against demons. We are all human. Felicia loves the way he thinks, finding it beautiful for a noble to be like that. The youngest sister teases, saying he still looks like an aristocrat, just in a friendly way. The hero wraps his arm around his sister, saying that Charles is a buddy and hopes they get along well. She agrees, and the two formally greet each other, happy to finally meet. Later, the warm light of the house illuminates the dark and peaceful forest. The four gather at the table, enjoying a feast of steak and bread. The hero lent a hand in the kitchen while Charles brought a sinister wine. For a while, everyone laughed and forgot about the war, enjoying a rare peace. Charles commented that his family is great, and the hero agreed. He admitted that, although he talks about saving the world, what he really wants is to protect this peace. Charles was moved and offered to help protect this peace no matter the cost. The hero punched his friend's fist, saying that he is the one who should want this kind of help. Back in the present, the hero's bandaged arm closes into a fist as the memory fades away. The hero informs his friend that he knows the reward, but Charlie has already caught on to the noble. He explains that as a friend, he feels it is his duty to end his pain. Charlie smiles, realizing there is much more to the story than the rumors say. The hero asks if he is ready for the story of the monster, and Charles agrees without hesitation, confident in his strength. Charles knows he can face anything. The hero gives an ironic smile, remembering how reliable Charles has always been. He begins to tell everything, from the destruction of the village to the loss of Felicia. Charles listens calmly, but his expression becomes heavy upon hearing about his sister. Consumed by anger and pain, the hero promises that the Demon King will pay, even if it is the last act. Charles asks what Felicia would think of him now. The young man, in search of revenge, says he will never know if she would be proud. He bids farewell, asserting that this path will be his only destiny. Charles sighs, realizing he cannot stop him, pretending they never knew each other. The hero apologizes, but promises they will meet again. As Charles watches his friend distance himself, he knows that this meeting is inevitable. After the hero leaves, Charlie feels a strange presence behind him and turns around. A boy who once appeared with him emerges, introducing himself as Kronos. The kid says he was looking forward to seeing the blue eyes of the Glass family, with the swirl of blue energy. Charlie prepares for battle, telling the boy to come at him. His eyes shine with power as he dares the demon to show what he is really capable of. Meanwhile, at the inn, Solana comments on how beautiful it is, surprised that there is even a shower now. There was the girl in her pajamas thanking her partner for picking up her clothes while she washed herself. Look how cool! Then she asked playfully if he had explored the city. He replied that, actually, he ran into Charles, that familiar face. The guy let it slip that he told everything to the noble, who even let him off the hook for now, but made it clear that he couldn't count on him. It seems that the royal knights are not hunting him in this city. Then, he turned and asked how things were, going in the guild. The girl confirmed that she collected the rewards just fine. Proudly, she showed a heavy sack of coins and a new load of powder. Great work. She said she got a discount for being a woman in martial arts, and that made her really happy. He asked if there were any updates about anything. She replied that the request to capture him was buried. He grew curious and asked about Kronos or the Demon King, but nothing new on them either. She tried to cheer him up by saying that no, news is good news, and he agreed that it was a relief. He knows that Kronos is still after him, so sooner or later, they will bump into each other again. In the meantime, he promised to keep facing demons, stealing power and getting even stronger. His companion noticed a hint of concern in his eyes, but accepted the plan. Then she pulled out the map, suggesting a tricky route for them to continue the hunt, pointing out the way. She said they would face trolls, bosses, and even a demon in black armor. She also mentioned that it would take them to the village of Karake, and he agreed that it was a good move. Selena stretched, happy, satisfied that the plans were finally laid out with a clear immediate future. She threw herself on the bed, ready for a good nap. The hero also lay down, closing his eyes and finally letting his body relax. While he fell asleep, Selena got up in the morning and approached him. She stretched out her hand, asking her sister who was gone if she was able to hear her thoughts, wondering if she was really giving the support her sister would like her to give. Remembering a moment when Felicia asked her why she had the courage to be an adventurer, the girl had proudly responded that she would never trip over anything. Just to annoy her sister, she explained that, always relying on their help, she wanted to do something on her own. Now the older sister understood, saying that if she had decided, she should go ahead. Felicia made the girl promise to stand by her brother while he fought. The younger sister promised that she would be the rock he could count on to rest. The two held hands, forming a strong bond as they made this sincere promise. She notices that since that day, her brother has been in an eternal battle. She knows that, with her sister gone, she must be her brother's safe harbor for rest. She clenches her fists, aware that she won't replace her sister, but she can be present. The next morning, she wakes up with joy, wishing her brother a cool day. He responds by asking if the night was good. After such a busy day, with a radiant smile, she gives a thumbs up and confirms that she slept like a rock. Thus, the two leave Alfred ready to continue the journey. They face hordes of monsters and demons, growing stronger with each fight. Eventually, they are led back to the familiar forest surrounding the village of Kareki. As they walk, Solana stretches, noticing that they have already taken down many monsters. Almost there, but then the hero suddenly interrupts her, asking her to hold up because he sensed something strange. He begins to look around in the dark forest, recognizing a bizarre and disturbing smell in the air. The companion asks what's going on. He explains that it's a plant monster, a so-called garden of corpses. Since there was no report in the guild, it must have appeared recently. They decide to exterminate it and venture deeper into the forest, where the air becomes thick with a sweet scent and shiny petals. But further ahead, they reach a clearing, and there it is, the source of the smell, a field of beautiful flowers. The girl finds it as much beautiful as it is creepy. The feeling is shared by her partner. He knows that while the flowers are empty, they are safe, but he's interrupted upon seeing a vine nearby, and to their horror, it is not empty.